McAllen over at Macro Connect with that team. This is Micah in the back of the room. And then we do have 2 visitors from different districts here. So maybe Dwayne, Derek, you just take yourselves off mute real quick and introduce yourselves.
Derek Stallings over at UPrep.
Dwayne Arnett, UPrep also, IT Director.
Great, thanks guys.
Welcome.
So today we are going to be testing 4 different products. There's not a formal agenda or anything like that. My hope too is that I can get some of you all up here to try them yourselves. I do also have some wipes with me, so I can wipe these down properly, make sure I'm not contaminating any of the equipment before I hand it off to you folks. Right now I'm using almost none of that equipment. I'm just speaking through my mask, as teachers might have to, or they might be wearing some kind of face shield next year. But I do have 3 Zoom feeds set up right now. So just queuing around the room, the back left corner, that is a Logitech Meetup camera on top with a display and then a computer rigged on the back. So that's what we call a robot teacher. So we'll be taking a closer look at a robot teacher today. And at least for now, that's what's picking up the mic audio in the classroom before I start using any of these other appliances. I am going to have Micah record today's session too. So you can go back and you can hear what it sounded like when I'm speaking now without a mic, and then when I do mic up with both the swivel and just with the standard audio enhancement system. The one right here in the middle, in the back, sitting on a cart, is a swivel, and that's just a CEG iPad sitting on top of it. That's the C3 series. It only has 1 marker attached, and I'll share what a marker is a little bit later. One thing I noticed is that that thing should be following me as I move around the screen. It's got kind of a wide angle right now. So it's not moving too much, but those of you who are looking closely can't see that it is tracking me as I walk around the room. Over here we have what's called an audio enhancement system. That is designed to basically spread the sound of the teacher's voice equitably across the entire classroom. It's not a new technology, it's just something that's become even more relevant given some of the restraints or constraints that teachers might have to deal with teaching next year. And there's one other piece, which is up here at the front of the room. I'll have people probably come up and take a look because I can't take it very far. When we get to that point, this is called a Q-Connect. And what that lets me do is wireless projection throughout the classroom. So that's not just for the teacher's laptop. You can also have students connect. And so I can display multiple screens up here at the same time if I needed to. And this is actually the laptop that I'm using, that I'm projecting to the front of the room. So now as a teacher, I'm not tethered to the front there where I have to plug right in to that HDMI port. I can be anywhere in the classroom, and I can share my screen with all the students. On that note, maybe I can just do a quick poll to see who I have in the room. So I know Grant and what he does, and maybe we can just whip around this way and you could just share what your role is and which school maybe.
Mallory Ferry, Adams Young Principal.
Great. Welcome, Mallory.
Tamika Over, Academic Dean. Larissa Bridgewater, Academic Dean, Adams Young.
Cool.
Crystal Thomas, Assistant Director of Curriculum for Cornerstone Schools.
Great, welcome.
Laura Greathouse, Senior Executive Director of Curriculum and Education Council Project Director. Is that the second one?
Yeah.
Still figuring it out.
I love the look.
Whatever we get next year. Cool. So I'm going to leave this up for projection. Again, there's no real formal agenda, but I thought it made sense to just present a little bit of content at the front of the room, kind of like a teacher would during regular instruction. But don't hesitate to raise your hand, interrupt me. The goal here is really just to get everybody kind of exposed to the different tech and to start a dialogue about how that might or might not help teachers to accommodate some of the new learning requirements going into next year. I will reiterate just that this session is being recorded, so I get some behavior management challenges on the way, but I also say that just in case anyone is uncomfortable with that. That was really the screen of record back there, so if you're out of the picture, or if you're not out of the picture and you want to be, you can always move to one of the corners, so that's not you up. All right, so we'll just kind of go tool by tool here, starting in the back left. That robot teacher is really designed to help teachers move fluidly and students really move fluidly between on-site and virtual learning. So right now, as an example, we've got a Zoom session set up in the back. I am sharing my teacher screen, like most of your teachers probably would be. And I know a lot of them probably are thinking about using Zoom as a recording tool as well. So having a completely separate computer in the back of the room to run that now means that the teacher doesn't have to fuss with all of the controls here and letting people in and out of the meetings. Instead, you can have a dedicated computer there in the back. I'm going to walk over that direction so that the stool picks that up if anybody on the other end wants to cue in and see it a little bit closer. Try to get on this side. So up here's a Logitech camera. This camera is also the mic. So there's a built-in microphone there. In terms of picking up audio across the entire room, this is going to be our best bet against the tools that we kind of see here today, just because it's picking up audio from all directions in the room. This screen could be used in a couple different ways. You might have students in a separate classroom when you want to tune into live instruction that a teacher might be delivering. So this could actually be the teacher's face or the teacher's screen up here, and then those students seated in that classroom can follow along with the teacher as if they're there with them. Or if you have a couple students who might be tuning in to live instruction virtually, so you guys are my pupils, and then I have 3 or 4 families who, for whatever reason, aren't comfortable coming to school that week or may have experienced some kind of exposure, then I can have my students up on this screen and be able to see them. Right now, a lot of my screen space is being eaten up because I'm sharing my screen, but if I stop that share, we'll get a little bigger picture. And so now that screen's a little bit bigger. Looks like Dwayne, Derek, Tracy might be a little bit shy, so they've got their video off for now, but if it were a requirement for students to be up on video, then I'd be able to see them. I could call on Laura, but then I could also call on Tracy because I'd be able to see whether or not she's engaged with the instruction that's happening in the room. Yeah.
So with Zoom, I think typically only 25 boxes or people can fit in the screen. Is that standard, or is it the larger screen that you have and more people can show?
Yeah, so I think it's 24 people can fit on it, if that sounds right. So 24 people on the screen, and then you have to go to the next one. Unfortunately, even if we use a bigger display, it's still going to limit it to that number of participants. But there are some districts who are, instead of getting, I think that's a 35-inch, they're getting a 65-inch display because they want to see the students bigger on there. The building blocks would essentially be the same. The only difference from an equipment standpoint might be we need a different mount, because this mount is designed to handle a certain amount of weight. So if we get 65-inch, we just need to make sure that that's the case. But at the end of the day, it's still the same parts, which is a computer that's on the back. You notice the teacher can't even see that. It's just hidden behind and locked to the back of the cart. The Logitech camera on top. And then we do have a wireless keyboard that has a mouse on it. That's also dedicated just to this unit. So again, the teacher's not going to have to use any of their controls from up here to control this computer. They're just going to use this wireless mouse. And then, now we just see where your hand coming up a second ago.
I was wondering about that, so it's slower than. I do have a question about that. What would the teacher need to use that for? I thought you said it was just the camera.
What do they need to use the keyboard and mouse for? So actually this is its own computer, really.
Okay.
So and feel free now or later to come to the back, but you see there's a computer hooked up to the back here.
Okay.
And so the idea is I can actually minimize this. Oh, I can't minimize because I'm recording. So I'm not going to minimize it entirely, but it has its own desktop, has its own applications, everything. So a teacher could use their Windows login like they would for their laptop at the front of the room. And that way they don't have their lesson plans on there, their attendance, everything, and then we're adding on this other layer of having it project to a separate screen.
Miguel, and you said in the setups that the robot teacher can actually be like closer to the screen, right? So I'm thinking if students came up to the board for students who are in the classroom and engage, and this may be for students who are at doing remote learning, like from where the robot teacher is right now, it's very hard to see the front board. Yep. So the way that you're moving it, I think, but it has that ability, right? Where you can move it however is best for the kiddos in the classroom, right?
It does, and one of the things that people in the room can see is that we have a super long power cord on it. And so the idea is that it should be able to reach just about any quadrant in the classroom with that power cord. And so this should be mobile learning. You can move this over to, let's say you have a science classroom where you want the kids over the sink for some kind of experiment. You'd be able to roll this in any part of the classroom and pick up that visual. There's a little remote that's probably hard for most of you to see. I'm trying to bring it. That comes with the Logitech Meetup camera. And this will also let you zoom and go pan left, pan right. So if you did want to zoom into the board, for example, for a lesson that requires it, you could get a really clear picture of just the front of the room instead of trying to capture all the folks who are sitting in class.
Yeah, well, Micah, just a little suggestion. I don't know if you can, but maybe if we can rename each of those screens to like swivel, robot teachers, so we know what
Very good, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time with what's coming from where.
Yeah, like, once it started looking, I'm like, okay, that must be the.
And the swivel, that was one of the points I was looking at. It was circulating even though you were up front. And so does it have a tracker to know it should be tracking your steps or?
Great question.
To that product.
So I'm going to do this. I can only rename one because I'm logged into my account 3 times. So I have the robot teacher named robot teacher, and then I'm going to turn off the video here. Turn off video, and then the one that's moving is the swivel. So that's the upper left.
Okay.
I'm going to skip ahead to the swivel since you just brought that up. How the swivel works is I'm actually wearing this little Bluetooth beacon, and so this is what it's tracking throughout the classroom. One thing you might have noticed, and I think it was when I was back there, is the swivel was having trouble finding me. And there's a couple reasons for that. One is because it's Bluetooth, and then 2, there's this big metal cart that was probably blocking the signal because I had it stored so low. And what a teacher would often do, and I can't remember where I put the lanyard for it. Here it is. There's a lanyard that comes with it. And if I wanted to use this as my audio source, I could hook it around the strap, and then I could actually wear it. And so from a centering standpoint, this is going to give a much more accurate picture, because this is going to be somewhere in the middle of my chest. All it's getting picked up. It just looks like I'm wearing a lot of stuff now, so probably come back to that.
Hey, Miguel, can you move around the room now that you have the lanyard on?
Sure. This would be the upper left quadrant if you're following along on the screen or at home. So one thing I noticed, Derek, is if I turn my back, I tested this elsewhere. I don't know if it'll happen here. It had trouble finding me, and so I don't know if it'll continue to pick me up. It looks like it is for now.
No, it's following you a lot better than before.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, part of that is the setup we have back here isn't great because it's sitting on top of the metal cart. And so when I was wearing it low, I bet it was having trouble picking up that signal. I think, looking forward to if this were implemented in the classroom, Swivel also sells these little tripods, and those are very unobtrusive. So I would say you would put it on some kind of mounted tripod, and that way you're not worried about interference from setting it on top of even a desk or something.
Could you have that base installed like on a wall or something, or no? Just use the tripod.
You could certainly install the base somewhere. You wouldn't want to put it on the ceiling because I'll try to hold this up to the screen. But on here, this iPad is just hanging on really by these little grips that are here.
Yeah.
And you still need to charge the iPad, after the fact. So I would say you could certainly physically install this, but probably not this.
Right. Okay, cool.
Yep. Question.
Does that have to be charged? That's really like that?
It does. Yeah. So the Swivel has to be charged. Micah looked it up this morning.
5 to 6 hours is what the runtime is.
Yeah. So that would be a consideration, Dwayne, if you're going to mount it somewhere in a room, is probably just have it constantly plugged in, because without a charge, it's going to be 5 to 6 hours. One thing that's a little bit difficult to demo right now, and so what I'm thinking is towards the end, I'll power off the robot teacher entirely, so that you can hear the kind of audio that comes out of just this. As it stands, the C-Series one that CG currently has has just one, what they call a marker. And so the teacher marker is the Bluetooth that's going to get followed around the room, but you'll also see there's a little audio port here. And so if I'm walking around the room, regardless of if I'm near the iPad or not, it's going to pick up my voice from nice and close. So the audio quality should be really strong. And that's inclusive of whether or not a teacher is wearing a mask, because it's going to be so close. This is an adjustable lanyard, so I can actually move it up as well. So if I have concerns about the face shield getting in the way, I can tighten it up so that it goes a little bit closer to where the audio source is. What's kind of neat is there is a little record button on here also. So if on the fly, I was like, you know, this is a great piece of content, something I want to make sure that I capture and have access to in the future, or that I want to edit, throw some slides over. There's a little record button on here. You click this, it's going to start the recording from the swivel. So we can test that later as well if people would like. I'm not going to do that now just because the Zoom is running on here.
So the swivel operates, it's been a long time since I used it, it's from an app on the iPad, right?
Good question. Yep, so there is a swivel app. You have to have the swivel app installed, and it's not just iPad, you can do it on.
I had it on my phone, so when I played with it, I was using my phone, and it worked the same.
And I don't know if there's a Chromebook app, it might be something to look into, but I know that there's an app for your phone. Because one of the things I tested yesterday was if you didn't have additional markers, but you still wanted to capture the audio and group work that might be happening in different parts of the room, you can connect additional screens and it'll capture the audio. It's just going to be the audio that's in the system audio from the Chromebook, the iPhone or whatever device that is. So it's not going to be as high quality as something like this, but you could also be recording those interactions for future use if you want to grade them or share that out with other students. The other thing you can do is some of the newer versions in particular, but this one as well, you can buy additional markers. And so those markers wouldn't be for tracking so much as just getting the audio markers on the tables closer to where the students are, if you wanted to capture the dialogue that's happening throughout the classroom. That is one drawback with just one marker. If we were recording this session, I don't think we'd be able to hear you all very well. What's going to hear very well is just the audio that's right in front of it.
Just for clarity, you only have the one marker on? Because I'm hearing everybody fine. Everybody that's talking in the room, I can hear clearly so far.
The reason for that, Derek, is the audio is being picked up by the mic that's on the robot teacher. So that's our audio for this. Yeah.
Okay.
And that was intentional because I knew we'd have people joining from afar. And just on that problem specifically, Derek, I think of the stuff we have in the room to capture high quality audio of the entire group with just one appliance, it's not going to be that Logitech Meetup that's mounted at the top of the computer that's in the back.
But I can also see in some classrooms, like say you have a group of kindergartners all doing a lot of activity, that would be really distracting for whoever's on the other end is picking up everybody. That would be overstimulating.
And that is the other reason I think to have a second computer in the back of the room if you're going to live stream, because if I had muted this audio and then I wanted to play a video or a song or something like that, then my students in the classroom are now suffering and unable to hear that audio. Anything else on that? We're back to robot.
If we're going to use GoGuardian, would GoGuardian most likely be installed on the teacher laptop or a back of the room?
Yeah, I mean, both could be. You know, there's no reason that computer couldn't be just your GoGuardian source, even if you weren't live streaming. Maybe you want to have that up. But for people who are used to maybe using Phoronix and having it right on their laptop, and prefer to have that control, you can just hook it right up to your computer.
We'd have to choose, would we see either the desktops on this screen or the video on this screen? We can obviously do grid up at the same time, right? We'd have to toggle still back and forth somewhere between seeing their desktops. You want to see the desktop views?
Correct, if you want to see people on the back, right?
Choose one or the other, right?
Yeah. So in that case, you know, maybe if I tell people to start their intro to new material, then over here I might pull up GoGuardian, check how students are doing, and then over there be able to visually see them, or vice versa.
One more question, Miguel. Before
Yeah, please.
Can you also Zoom on? Can you Zoom with the The camera that we're on now, the one that's following you?
The one that's following me, I have not figured out a way to zoom, but let me. It doesn't look like it, Derek. I'm not 100% confident on that answer, so let me send you an email after this. Can you write that down, Mike, to make sure we get it? But just on the iPad itself, I don't see a way to zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that there might be a way to zoom in. And it could be two answers, Derek. It might be that when you're in the swivel application, you can zoom, but maybe when you're in Zoom, you cannot zoom.
Okay.
I'll have to look into that.
Can't zoom on Zoom.
You can't zoom on Zoom.
But definitely like with the robot teacher, if you wanted to zoom in on the whiteboard or something. Yes, definitely. It's too far.
Yeah, and I don't have the best angle right now for that. I'd probably move it to the center of the room. But this little remote here has a zoom in button, so that would take a lot of tech. And I can see it zooming in closer and closer. So you can imagine pointing that right at the board, having it center stage, and getting a much better, clearer picture.
Noise cancellation, is it any technology on these devices?
So there's some noise cancellation built into this guy right here, and then this guy right here, if you were using the swivel. That's part of the idea of having the voice so close to this, so that it's picking up my close voice, exactly. I think Derek had shared, but maybe, Dwayne, how's the audio quality sound?
It sounds pretty good from where I'm sitting. I can hear everybody's questions. I hear you perfectly fine.
And that right now is just the mic that's on top. That's not even using either of these two things just yet. And as a reminder, we'll send out the recording, so if you want to jump from part to part when I'm using these versus that, you can compare the audio quality.
So I got a question though, Miguel. So my CEO she's having us look at this camera, but I'm trying to figure out what problem does this address most? Is it the distance learning when children are at home, or is it when like you have people in the room with you? Is that what we're trying to address the most?
Yeah. So I see two use cases for the swivel. There's going to be the distance learning piece. So there are lots of ways to Zoom, obviously. I could be doing that directly from my computer.
Right.
But from an engagement standpoint, if I'm a learner at home, it's probably not a great experience if I'm constantly falling off the visual and they can't really see what's going on in the classroom. So this at least replicates some of that experience of working with a teacher who is actually moving throughout the classroom, stopping here to work with the student.
Right.
Then the other side of that I would say is just the recording piece. So if you are an instructor and you're recording some kind of flipped lesson, remedial content, enrichment content, this also gives the teacher that feeling of teaching in a regular classroom where they can move back and forth along the board, they can walk to a different part of the room to interact with whatever manipulative they need. One thing you can't see here, Dwayne, is just the back end of it. In the Swivel app, you can record all of your content to the cloud, and then in there you get a little video editor. So you could take that content, you could download it and upload it to the classroom or elsewhere, where you could slap slides on it if you wanted to have a more full-featured lesson.
So
Go ahead.
So as you've been sitting here, I looked because some of our schools, our teachers do have Chromebooks. So I was looking at the Chrome app, and there is a Chrome app, but it says it works well as long as you pay the $200 for all the accessories. If you only use your phone, you get about 20 minutes of recording time before you need to restart. So I'm wondering, is that just an issue with the Chrome app, or is that an issue with Swivel period on anything?
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of features that are behind this paywall at Swivel. So there's a pro version, then there's the free version. And I don't know if that gets addressed, Dwayne, with the pro version or doing that upgrade. So that'd be something we look into if, having that ability for the students to interact with the Chrome app is important.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just wanted to note too, we had actually looked into the swivels prior to COVID. And this is also using the swivel itself, actually a pretty integral part of doing teacher evaluations and informal observations where you can, teachers can see themselves teaching, and especially in this new virtual world, excuse me, it might be very helpful for teachers to see what their kids see, which is very hard to see from a Zoom screen. And then during this COVID time, one thing we realized is that sometimes doing one Zoom isn't just enough. So we're hoping to plan that the kids that are doing remote learning, who choose that virtual option, are logging in through the robot teacher during the time their teacher is actually teaching other students. So as we move into different phases, so as phase 5 comes into play, we'll have less students that are doing remote learning most likely, but we still want to reach them. So instead of having teachers who have to be just our virtual teachers, they could have a classroom in their classroom, but still teach their virtual students at the same time, because they're saying, excuse me, I'm coughing, come in at, at 8:30, this is when language arts or ELA or guided reading starts. So everyone's logging in at 8:30, if you're remote or if you're in the building. And so the remote kids are actually getting a live teaching lesson. And the idea is hopefully to be able to pair a support staff with those teachers that have those virtual remote kids in their classroom. And that person's kind of maintaining the chat and asking questions from the robot teacher to the teacher up front to say, oh, Johnny, who's, online, needs to see you do that one more time. Can you do that? Show that example one more time. So this is really a way to engage our kids who may not be able to be physically present, because we found out a lot of kids that were on our Zoom, were there, but weren't, it was very hard to engage necessarily. So this was another way to really get them, and again, you get them the minutes of instruction, because online learning right now, according to the state, still has to maintain the same amount of hours as kids that are in the building, whether it's on or offline. So this is a way for us to also make sure our students are getting the same instruction as the kids who come into the building itself.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tracy. While you were sharing, one other use case did come up that we talked about quite a bit with other districts, which is just back to that teacher observation piece. This is a way also to avoid putting another body in the room for a teacher observation, right? It's just putting a swivel or a robot teacher, whichever, in the back of the classroom so that you don't have an extra adult that's potentially, exposing students or vice versa. So that was a long-winded way of answering your question, Dwayne. Was it answered by Tracy and myself?
Yes, it was.
There are two other pieces I want to show, and for Derek and Dwayne, I know you guys have seen the audio enhancement. So if you want to stick on, feel free to stick on. If you want to hop off, feel free to do so. But that is this other appliance I'm wearing around my neck here. I'm going to lower this one so it's not getting in the way. Keep in mind, this is the swivel. You wouldn't need to have this in order to use this. But the idea behind audio enhancement, again, is age is old, and it's the idea that the student, even before wearing a mask that's in the back left of the room, is going to hear the consonants coming out of my mouth, the vowels, all of those things differently than the student, Laura, who might be sitting right in front of the teacher all day. And I think this is just going to be amplified by the fact that teachers might, at some point during the year, be wearing some kind of face shield, whether it's a clear one or something like this. And I will admit, even as I'm speaking up here, I'm talking a little bit louder than I would like to. But the idea is when you wear this, it's going to pick up audio, and it's going to send it to an amplifier that's going to project it out of speakers. The caveat here is that typically the way this is set up is we have 4 speakers, and we'd actually mount them in quadrants across the room. And then just in going back and forth with Grant yesterday, we decided for the demo, let's make something mobile in case it's something that's going to be shared kind of around. So Audio Enhancement did not sell us this crate. Put this in. I found that right in the back of the room. Decided that was a good place to put some of that. So all of the kind of guts and components that you typically see as wires, maybe running across the beams, those are just sitting in here. We hooked up two speakers for the demonstration. The idea is, as a teacher, I come in the morning, power this on, see the green light came up. And so you can plug it in, and now when I walk around the classroom, I can have my voice being projected from there. I'm also speaking at a far more comfortable voice than I was before when I was trying to speak through a mask. Just from a purely vocal streaming standpoint, this is far more comfortable for me, but I also don't have to worry as much if I walk over and I'm standing near Grant to manipulate something, whether or not audible audio is getting to all my students while I wear this mask. There is a secondary component, and I know going into next year, I'm not sure how comfortable teachers will feel having students pass the mic around the classroom. But there's a handheld mic version that can be a student mic, and then there's also a ball version, so you can pass the ball to somebody and they can speak into the ball to get them to do the audio. I think from a portability standpoint, this is not ideal, not just because there's a crate sitting in the front of the room, but there is a different version, in hindsight we could have gotten, which is a soundbar. And so the soundbar has the same components. Teacher just wears a microphone around their neck, but that soundbar can be moved to any part of the classroom. So we're doing this again. That can hold the charge as well, so maybe I actually put that in the back of the room, pointing towards the students, and then I can continue with my normal instruction like I would. The neat thing about that one, and something that's been used for time and time again, is just, if you got an assembly or a parent meeting or something like that, it's something you can just pick up, walk into a room, place in the back, and you can wear this and still be hands-free for all the other instruction you're planning to do.
Is there just two speakers hooked up right now?
There's just two speakers, yep. Want to test the.
Would you mind taking that one for me?
So,
Can you angle that speaker right there? Sure. I just want to see.
So as he turns the speaker, you can see the audio comes in much clearer. So next direction.
His speaker's picking up more his voice.
yeah, and so part of the reason for that is there's actually volume controls for the different inputs. And so his is probably set a little bit higher. So something I can do if I feel like he's drowning out, you can actually control the volume from the mic. So I can pump this up.
Hello.
So it's going to start to get louder and louder. That one actually should be toned down based on the research that's out there. Is once you start getting too loud, it's almost harsh to the students' ears. And they don't respond well to that either. It's just as bad as they could hear it all. Any questions about the audio mics? And I will reiterate, towards the end, I'd love if I could take this off, floor exit, and then anybody wants to try it. Certainly do that.
So you're suggesting that we would use all of those, the microphone and the robot teacher?
I think it depends what you're trying to accomplish. To be honest, I've, across the board, I've told many schools, if you're going to do any of this stuff, do the audio enhancement. Your teachers will thank you over and over for it.
I like them regardless of this. Like,
Exactly.
even in a regular year, it's just higher quality instruction for kids sitting in a room. So
I agree with that. It's one of those things that when I was teaching, I was offered it and I didn't want it because I didn't want to wear a lanyard. And then I was at a 2-day long professional development, and one of the audio enhancement reps was there. He was like, "Hey man, wear the product." I'm like, "No, I'm not wearing that stupid thing around my neck." And then probably halfway through the day, voice starts to get a little muffly. I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna try this thing." And that was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Since then, I've just been like, "Yeah, you're gonna do one thing, do the audio enhancement piece."
We have a few teachers at one of our schools that use it. It's resulted positive. when.
Oh, yes, he does.
Great.
It's great.
Yeah, just brings it.
And his voice is very lower register anyway, so he's really soft, but everybody can hear him.
What school, what grade?
Salter, JDA Middle School.
So the last piece of tech in here, and then we can have a little recess, is this guy up here, which is probably a little hard to see from the back right now, but this is called the Cuomo Q-Connect, and this is what's letting me wirelessly project my screen that you see up here without me having to hook anything in. So this is actually what I'm projecting from. It's just my laptop. So you can imagine a teacher having their laptop. I can walk around the room and see the student over here. Depending too on what the layout of the classroom looks like, if you need that valuable space to see a student, now I no longer have to climb over them to go take my attendance or anything like that. It's probably going to be a little challenging to see this guy up here, but this is my remote control for wireless projection. I think I can maximize this. And so this Q-Connect 1700 is what's sitting there. And I can also pause this screen. So while it's paused, now I can go into PowerSchool, or sorry, MyStar, I can take my attendance, I can enter my grades, I can pull up GoGuardian, and I can leave that intro to new material or that quiz question up there on the board while I do other things with my teacher. So no fun.
So you can take attendance while you're doing your
Exactly.
activator.
Yep, so.
Is that exciting?
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, just to see it frozen.
Because right now, we are always projecting whatever the teacher's pulling up on their screen.
Yeah.
With the exception of, I mean, if the teacher knows how to extend their screen, we have tricks like that. They can have something different up here, different over there. One challenge I have seen, because I've done that myself, is that when you want to change something that's on this screen, then you're like, demands and two. So this is kind of nice. So I've got a different presentation up on my screen now, and it's still frozen on that other screen. And then when I click that play button, it'll catch back up. So now it's back to
That's cool.
it's on the screen.
And this just plugs into a wall outlet and an HDMI port, and that's
So
it.
yeah, and so because we wanted to keep it mobile, I just plugged it into the port that's already here, which you absolutely could do. But there is an open port on the back of the Cuomo too, so we can actually mount that above if we didn't want anybody to be able to fuss with it.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually this is just a network connected device right now. It's hooked up to the Wi-Fi here, so we can actually move this from this room to any room in the building. And it would still project to whatever display is hooked up to with HDMI. So that was the quick and dirty of all of the tools. I'll pause there and see if there are specific questions, if anybody wants to try any of the tools.
Will the Q-Connect pair well with our bills, or do we need to upgrade those?
Your laptops? Oh, we're gonna buy 10-year-old laptops and try those. I think it's compatible with any.
Yeah, so this is a Dell laptop too. It is a newer laptop, but the yeah, I just got it. I'm really excited about it. Grant actually got it for me.
Oh,
There's this little app called Meetup. It's really hard to see. It's at the top. It's nice. But Meetup you can install on Dell's. He installed it on his phone earlier to project his screen. I installed it on. I haven't installed it on a Chromebook, but I did look it up, and you can install it on a Chromebook. And we tried it with the iPad earlier, and that worked as well too. So I think it's
That's
not.
why I guess.
It is.
So
Yes.
no matter what device you have, as long as it connects to Wi-Fi, you can use the cordless.
There's also this little guy, which is a USB connection, and so you could plug this into your laptop as well. I found those steps to be a little bit cumbersome to get connected, but this is an option too, especially if you don't have time to like download the Meetup app and all that. You could plug this in, follow the steps that are on the screen. I would say it takes, we would want to put a teacher through that day in and day out, but short term, it's something that is an option as well.
Any of these systems, like, can they do
the function that like a dot cam can do, because we still have some teachers that want to like project something from a book or paper.
Oh, good question.
So I think what I would do is probably just hook the dot cam, there's one here. I think we connect over USB. Typically do, and I know it might be a little bit for somebody's down the lessons. Is they would connect this USB to their computer and it displays on here. So as long as they're sharing their screen, I mean, if they're just connected, it's gonna pop up there. But if they wanted the students on the other end to see, it would just be a matter of sharing the Zoom screen with whatever's being displayed on.
So they would have to have something like that.
It would be the
A
document.
document. Any document, yeah.
Okay, got
And I know from school to school, I think Adams Young and one other have Cuomo's, and the others might have the Epsons still, or even Elmos. But the idea would be the same. Hook into your computer, as long as it's displaying on the computer, you'd be able to share your screen. And I apologize, I can't demo that because newer computers don't actually have USB ports anymore. I don't have USB ports. And that wasn't a humble brag, so I legitimately don't have USB, and the number of times I need USB is very challenging.
Again, all of these processes can be used with Google Classroom or Google Meet and the same.
Yeah, so this is agnostic for sure to, I know we're using Zoom today, but some of the tests we ran, we were just installing around Microsoft Teams, which is another video meeting platform. Google Meet uses all the same components, and keep in mind, at least for that one, that is just it's a computer in the back of the room. So as long as your computer can run those applications, you can. If it wasn't being used for recording, it's a full functioning computer. So if you just want to go Guardian in the back of the room for a lesson or something like that, you'd be able to pull it out.
So I'm